Hey everyone, it's Tom here. We weren't going to do a cold open for this episode because we know it's the One Piece episode. We wanted to just focus on that and, start straight off on One Piece, not have any cold opens. And I especially hate to do any bits without Joe. I don't like to just monologue and go on and on. This is a dialogue after all, but he couldn't be here to record this, and it is time sensitive, and I have to put this in because I actually got the guy in charge of the Suez Canal, like the boss of it. I got him to agree to sit down with me for an interview on the show. So without further ado, sir, thank you for joining us. Can you introduce yourself to the Anime Sickos audience?
Hola. Yes, I'm Mr. Suez.
Oh, shit, your name is Mr. Suez.
Yeah. It's my dad's name and also my name.
That's incredible. How did that? Is that a coincidence or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we tell people.
So I know what you're thinking at home, hearing Mr. Suez say that, is that he sounds exactly like Joe. That's actually a completely unrelated issue. That's actually very personal for Mr. Suez. So we're not going to be focusing on that today, sir. So don't worry about that.
I really appreciate you respecting my and my family's privacy about this matter at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but like this is not something to make fun of, folks. Listening to this, you got to give Mr. Suez respect. But okay, that out of the way, like I got to ask the question on everyone's minds. So right now in the Suez Canal, there's a big boat that's sideways that's blocking the whole thing. And it's pretty interesting because it's one single boat that just went the wrong way and like broke the whole world. So like that's a pretty like massive failure and like a huge problem. And I got to ask, as the boss of the Suez Canal, like what was your sort of plan for something like this? Like what is the thing that you guys like have ready in case it happens?
So this is obviously a nightmare situation for us. So what I've been doing is every day I just think like, man, I sure hope a boat doesn't get fucking stuck in there.
And?
That's it. I think this at the same time every day. So like I get my coffee, I do the spider solitaire, and I think about, how there shouldn't be any boats stuck in the canal today. And then, yeah.
Wait, okay, sorry. I don't think I follow here. You're telling me, honestly, you expect me to honestly believe that your entire contingency plan for a boat getting stuck in the canal, one of the most important canals on the planet, was just that you thought about it?
Well, actually, no, I didn't really think about it. Like, it's certainly not at the same time every day. But, like, okay, listen, asshole. Like, I don't understand why you're asking me these questions. Why don't you do a story about all the days I was in charge and a boat didn't get fucking stuck? Where's that happening? Because if you actually compare the two numbers, the numbers where everything is fine and no one yells at me, those days vastly outnumber this little slip up.
Okay, I mean, you got me there. That is objectively true. Well, okay. How about this? If we don't want to talk about that, if that's a heated topic for you, that's fine. I mean, I really am glad that you agreed to sit down with me for this interview. So I don't want to piss you off. So how about this? If a boat getting stuck wasn't something that you really thought was a big threat that you really prepared for, like what is the kind of thing that like you guys at the Suez Canal like are thinking about and are preparing for?
Well, a lot of our planning assumed that the boats would go through the canal the right way. So obviously we're caught a little bit with our pants down. But the main thing that like keeps me up at night is like, what if a little stretchy boy who ate the gum fruit shows up and just like really fucks up my day?
Oh, fuck. That would be pretty bad.
It would be a nightmare.
So how often has that happened?
It hasn't happened yet, but it's only because of our vigilance that it hasn't.
Thank you, Mr. Suez, for this incredible interview. This has been an amazing get for Anime Sickos and an exclusive. Shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos, the podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we talk about One Piece and only that. This is the One Piece episode. It's finally happening. I'm Tom, an anime sicko.
I'm Joe, an anime sicko.
Oh my god. Now, you might be thinking, as we were for a long fucking time, 70 episodes worth of time, how are you going to do a One Piece episode? Because I don't know if you know about One Piece. It's a manga. It's one of them comic books. And it's 1,007 chapters long at the time of recording. That's long. There's a lot of shit that's going on in there. How are we going to talk about that?
My thinking is, as a listener, because Tom never passes up an opportunity to yammer about One Piece, how are we going to wait until episode 71 to do it? And my counterpoint is, King of the Hill didn't do an episode where Peggy tried charcoal and liked it until later. You got to sit on these ideas.
Yes. I mean, but also personally from my own perspective, I was hesitant to do a One Piece episode as much as I wanted to because how are we I'm gonna fucking talk forever. I could if we didn't make really sure that we followed a structure and we're making specific points in specific segments and not going elsewhere. What would happen is I would talk for 4 hours, an unlistenable morass of words. And then the next day I would wake up and I'd be like, fuck, I forgot to say the most important hour of stuff. I fucked it.
I think this is a central point of One Piece, is that as a scope of work, it is stupidly ambitious. It's hysterical how large and involved it is. Would you agree with this statement? It spits in the face of God.
It always so does. It's Joe. Okay, you came up with this. Fuck, it does. You came up with this vocabulary word called stupid ambition that I love, and it's about projects where you take on this ridiculous self-imposed challenge.
Yeah. The ROI has to be fucked.
It has to be so low. Just deciding that you're going to do this project that no one's going to really see. It's not going to make you any money, but you're going to put just obscene amounts of time into it such that part of the effect of the work is not the actual content of the work itself.
It's the gravity.
Yes.
The gravity of it.
The fact that it exists at all. And that's fucking One Piece, because it's a scope. If you were to pitch what One Piece actually is, not what it could be. If you took the current series of One Piece, went back in time, and gave a pitch that was exactly accurate, every single person in the world would be like, well, that sounds incredible, but obviously you got to cut it down. You can't actually do that. That
yeah,
won't
and this
happen.
Text is found on a alien spaceship. Already ready to go. No human could do this.
Yeah, but it just exists, and how? Yeah, it's so. I'm already falling over myself. But what we're trying to do with this episode, what we've been doing with all of the episodes that focus on a specific series, is sort of twofold. One, we want to sell you on the series. We want you at the end of this to want to get into One Piece. But probably more to the point and important is the second purpose, which is to just, if you don't want to fucking read One Piece, if you already know you're not gonna, we want to give you the emotional gist of what's good about it, so that I haven't read it, but I understand the shape of the feelings that I would get if I had. So hopefully we can fucking achieve that without me going on about Blackbeard for 20 minutes. And that's not the Blackbeard from Real World. It's the Blackbeard who looks like a big egg and ate the dark fruit.
Also, you're right not to want to read it because it's too many pictures.
I have said in the past, I think it was on Ian Preshel's A+ Anime podcast. He was like, I ask all of my guests, how do you recommend One Piece to people? And my honest answer is, I think it's immoral to recommend that people read One Piece.
It is. It's what you should do? Just get ready to run a marathon. Do it. Get going.
It's hey, so you know me. I'm a guy you kind of know. I'm an acquaintance or maybe a weak connection friend. We're familiar. You know what I think is an appropriate thing for me to do? Tell you how to spend 200 hours of your life. That's totally okay. It's very socially acceptable. You shouldn't get mad at me. But you definitely have to spend 200 hours reading about the Rubber Man.
200 hours, and then you're not done. Now you've spent 200 hours to cultivate like this horrible addiction to these Looney Tunes.
It's true. But on the same hand, when it does happen, holy shit! Like previous guesto Casey Tony, after I told him that I had read Summertime Rendering, he was like, "Oh, that's so fucking cool that you did that. No one I recommend this to actually reads it. Like, I'm glad that I have someone to talk to. We talked about the series back and forth. It was a great time." And he's like, "You know what? I'll give One Piece a shot." And the next sort of day of our DM, the feeling that I had was like when I'm fighting the final boss, Sword Saint Ishin of Sekiro, which is the hardest boss in any fucking video game I've ever played, who is this big fucking samurai guy who's the best at sword, and if he hits you like twice, you die, and if you get hit once, you're definitely gonna get hit twice right away, and you have to be absolutely perfect, and the fight lasts for like 20 minutes, and you can't make any mistakes, and you are just fucking hopped up on white-hot adrenaline, just shaking, but you can't get too excited because that's how you make a mistake. That's how it feels to talk to someone who might be interested in getting into One Piece. I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't care if you read it or not, but here are some cool things that happen in it. But like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not invested in this. Ugh.
Yeah, you had to make the choice early on. With me, you're like, I'm just gonna say things that happen.
Yeah,
because otherwise I'll die. If I wait for you to read it, I'll become a skeleton.
Yeah, because you've watched up to, I think, Alabasta, right?
Yeah, I watched. Is that the crocodile fight?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched through that. The animation kind of sucks sometimes early on. I should probably have read the manga.
Yeah, I mean, I love One Piece, but to me, it is solidly a comic book. One Piece is a comic book. There's also an anime, but that's not important to me. It's a comic.
I will say the sound the Viz logo makes in the early episodes is the single like most 90s feeling thing. I know it started in late 90s, but like it's such a wonderful. It's like we're getting a cartoon adventure. It's about to fucking happen.
Drop it in here. So what's the plot of One Piece? If you know, what is it? I'm not going to get too much into it because, again, that would take an entire day of my life, 24 hours of talking. So here's the gist. It's the pirate world. The world is pirate world. There's a bunch of fucking islands all over the place, and everyone wants to be a pirate because it's fucking fun. There's a little boy called Luffy. He's a rubber man who ate the gum fruit and is stretchy. He says, I would like to be the king of the pirates. That sounds fun to me. The way you become the king of the pirates is you travel around the Grand Line, a special band of ocean that goes around the entire planet. When you get to the end of the Grand Line, there's the One Piece, which is a cool treasure. And if you get there, everyone's like, you the best pirate. You're the king of the pirates. And so he's like, I'm going to do that. And on the way, he accrues a bunch of fun friends and beats up mean guys. The end. That's the plot. There's other stuff obviously happening around that. And there are very fun and interesting roadblocks that Luffy hits. But that's the whole thing.
Yeah, so it's that for 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years. And probably 5 more. Before it's done. 5 more if the pace is really snappy.
So, as someone who is not current, obviously, I want to talk about what impresses me the most about One Piece, which is how it functions as a storytelling device. Because what Oda has set up with the various choices are so smart. For instance, all the islands are just whatever they want to be. You know, he's got this beautiful setup where an island can finish, and then you can go to a completely different place, completely disconnected. Yes, it exists in the same world, but guess what? Everything's fucking different now. It's such a kind way to set a story up initially.
Yeah. Just like, it's an archipelago world. There's no continents. Like there's one, but it's not important. Like everything is a fucking island. And especially fun is like the actual geography of the oceans is, again, it's just a gift that Oda gave his future self, because like the way that the actual oceans are is that there's like the main part of the world where the oceans are normal and the boats go on it normal and everything is like pretty normal. And then there's the Grand Line, which is the special ocean that goes around the equator. And you can't...
It's like the F-Zero Ocean.
Exactly. And you can only enter the Grand Line from one spot because around it, the entire world, are special zones of deadly death water where huge monsters will eat you if you try to cross it. So you have to go in from this one specific spot. And then, when you're on the Grand Line, physics and weather are goof mode. And so, like, an island can be winter all the time, and then the next island over can be Spain Island, where it's summer, and everyone does flamenco, cha-cha-cha. And it's just like, yeah, this can happen. Like, that's just how it is. Everyone knows that's how it is on the Grand Line, because the Grand Line's fucked.
And here's the big brain move, how it handles power creep. Because, look, you have a series that's been going on for 20 years. Power creep is a concern for any shonen, anime in general.
Yeah, whenever there's fighting and limit surpassing, eventually, like, well, how is anyone stronger than the guys we've faced?
Right. Like, in Dragon Ball Super, Krillin can still, like, kill the planet by punching while he's a mall cop, but, like, don't think about it. In this, they handle the power creep in an amazing way because the Grand Line is a very hostile newbie killing zone. Just the mere fact that you exist and navigate in this very fucked up, dangerous ocean is the behavior of a badass.
Yeah.
So immediately, the power creep is built into like the normal navigation stuff without it being a case of, oh yeah, now there's a bunch of different color auras.
Yeah, I mean, like, because when they're in the start of the series and they're in normal ocean, all the pirates they face are pirates who aren't good enough to go to the Grand Line. They're like, yeah, we tried to go to the Grand Line, but we got our asses kicked. We left. Or like, I'm too scared to go. I'm preparing still.
Yes. Oh, God. So this is the fact that there's a baby ocean for people like gearing up to go to the big thing. The reason I love it is it feels exactly like how the end of the Hunter x Hunter anime ended, where it's just like, that's the dark continent, and they show the map, and it's just like, see how you live in a little tiny square, and everything in every direction is nightmare. Anyway, the show's over now.
Yeah, the Hunter x Hunter set up that great reveal that like the entire world of Hunter x Hunter is like the size of Hawaii, and then there's like a continent the size of Asia right near it where everyone fucking kills you. But yeah, then immediately no more chapters were made.
But in One Piece, the setup occurs, and then 20 years of it pays off.
Yeah, and to even go beyond the Grand Line, because the Grand Line circumnavigates the entire Earth. But there's like a continent in the middle that you have to get past, and then there's like the second half of the Grand Line, and that one's called the New World. And power creep, would you believe it, everyone on the New World is even stronger than they are on the Grand Line. The reason being because the One Piece is at the end of the New World, so the people who are in the New World are like really close to getting the One Piece. So they're obviously the strongest people in the world. So the pirate crews that you run into on the Grand Line are badass, big contenders. They're heavy hitters, and you know they're going to put up a fight. The pirate crews that you run into in the New World are like equal to the government in terms of raw political influence over the world, because they're almost the king of the pirates. They're very nearly the king of the pirates. They literally are. It's not a figure of speech. They could get the One Piece. The only thing keeping them is that they're locked in mutual combat with each other. And it's like, holy fuck. It's so smart. And again, this is part of the structure that's so fucking genius and that makes it be 1,000 chapters and not suck, is that all this shit is exactly just Oda laying it right down in front of you. He flips a chair around backwards. He sits down and says, hey, kid, let's rap. Here's what's going to happen for the next 500 chapters. Here's exactly it. And you're like, really, sir? And he's like, yeah. And then he just does it exactly as he fucking says. It's, I think the earliest example of this is the 7 warlords of the sea. Joe, can you explain what those are?
The 7 warlords are, frankly, one of the best versions of one of my favorite tropes, which is when an anime introduces a class of bad dudes, and there's like a number of them, and you get to like get introduced to them. Yakuza does this very well. So the 7 warlords are themselves pirates, but they are backed by the government, so they're the government pawns. So the government has badass pirates on payroll to basically control and influence the world of pirates.
Yeah. And we are introduced to the concept, and we see 7 badass silhouettes, and Oda is basically looking us in the face and saying, hey, our friends are going to meet each one of these people one at a time and fight them all. And you're like, well, that sounds great. Incredible. And then this moment that I'm about to describe. I'm not going to do a lot of descriptions of discrete plot moments in this episode because that's just fuck. But this moment is, I think, one of the most big-brained decisions I've seen in any fiction writing. So we're in Baby Ocean, where we're fighting baby guys, and everyone doesn't know how to fight yet. And we're having a little baby arc where everyone is like kicking each other with little fucking booties. And then, right in the middle of that arc, completely unrelated, this other motherfucker shows up on a little dinghy. It's a fucking rowboat that he put a chair on, and he's sitting on the chair in the rowboat drinking tea. And he shows up, and everyone loses their fucking mind because it's Dracule Mihawk, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, randomly here for some reason. And he takes out his sword, and he swings his sword, and like 50 ships get cut in half immediately and explode. And Zoro, who's our crewmate on the Straw Hat Pirates, who is a swordsman who wants to be the best swordsman, is like, Mihawk, I will fight you. And Zoro, up till now, has been by far the most competent member of the crew. He does cool stuff and has badass action scenes and is very strong.
He's also like in a body cast for most of the beginning.
And the reason why is because he fucking... He's like, I will fight you, Mihawk. I will be the best swordsman. And Mihawk is like, I will fight you with the little knife that I used to eat dinner with. And he rinses him effortlessly. And Zoro almost dies. And we're like, this is the fucking power of a warlord of the sea? This is 1,000 times beyond all of the baby guys that we've been fighting for 100 chapters.
Yeah, and the show has done a good job of making those baby guys scary and the stakes appropriate.
Yeah. Like, we've been fighting this no-name idiot Don Krieg for like 20 episodes by now, and he's like putting up a big fight. But then Mihawk comes and destroys his entire fleet with a sword in one go, and you're like, oh my god. And so you're primed now that all of the fucking warlords are going to be at this level of power, and that our fucking heroes are going to have to meet them one by one and somehow best them. And here's the thing. It's true. Like, it's not a lie. Like, that does happen. He was telling the truth.
Yeah. Confidently stating up front, this is going to happen, and then proceeding to make that a reality in one of the longest pieces of narrative fiction.
Yeah. I mean, like, remember a while ago when it was, like, announced that some fanfic for Super Smash Brothers was, like, technically the longest piece of writing any humans ever made? And it's just all of this guy's Nintendo friends, like, going on a quest with him, and it's like 500,000 pages. One piece
I'm
is
sure it's
that.
all really good.
One piece is that, but good.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Because, like, yeah, we meet our first warlord of the sea that is in direct conflict with Luffy and the crew, Sir Crocodile, eater of the sand fruit. And he's the most scary, badass motherfucker. He's so strong. He's so smart. He's so powerful.
He turns you into a dang mummy.
He turns you into a mummy, man. And they win. And they win. And you hoot and you holler. And it hits so hard. And here's why it hits so hard. Because they've been fighting Crocodile for 100 chapters. He's been kicking their asses. And they finally get across the finish line. And not only have them been fighting in for 100 chapters, you've known for 175 chapters that the warlords of the sea are out there. They are numerous. They are more powerful than our heroes. They are more impressive than our heroes. They have a much bigger sphere of influence, and they are able to influence the world more than our heroes. And then we've known that for hours and hours and hours, years even, and it just happens. And you're like, oh my God, it's happening. The thing that I was promised 5 years ago is happening. And then it happens, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
Gah! Now things are different, and I know why.
Yeah, anyway, he does this 2 more times with 2 other groups of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, he introduces midway through the worst generation, which are all the other rookie pirates who have had the first half of One Piece happen to them. They all meet on the same island, and they're all badass crews of upstart young pirates with cool powers. And you're like, oh shit, there's 9 of these guys? I bet we're going to have fun arcs where all of them play a major role. Yep. And then also in the New World, the 4 emperors are there. These are guys who are even stronger than the warlords. These are emperors. They basically own their own independent nations. Their pirate crews aren't just crews. They're basically like rogue states. And yeah, I bet we're going to fucking have a special arc for each of them. Yep.
Yeah, this is sort of why telling someone to read it is like very rude, in the sense that, like, to know what you know and then to be like, anyway, what you want to do is start at square one is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because especially where I'm at One Piece, like, everything that's happening is bonkers. Every single event is like layered, like 7 layers deep of meaning. Like it's obviously meaningful now, but it's meaningful to the overall situation, and then to the political situation on this island, and then to the political situation on this part of the ocean, and further to the political situation on the entire planet. And everyone who's fighting is like the strongest guy in the world. And all of that only really works because the first 150 chapters are like babies who can't read trying to tie their shoes and like doing a very bad job. And like that's hard it's hard to recommend that part, but you have to eat your baby food before you get to your good food, because again,
solids? You mean solid food?
Yeah, before you get to your solids. Because it is that build. Everything that happens is promised so far in advance. And so you see the goodie in the distance. And you're taking your little tiny steps, and you can't imagine how you would ever reach the goodie. It's so far away. And then when you get there, the journey has sweetened the goodie to a fucking way that you could not possibly imagine. Like long form storytelling has a lot of fucking risks and common pitfalls. And if you read manga and watch anime, you'll fucking run into a lot of them.
Look, I will never get over Trigun ending with him being a tree. I was so fucking pissed about that. Because a tree is so much less cool than the gunfighting guy. And also the other guy's name was Knives, and he becomes a tree too. I hate this shit, dude.
Also, you get a lot of long-form stories where, like, you get hooked by a cool premise and a cool world.
Oh, yeah, and then you get the sunk cost fallacy, which is a wonderful battle between yourself and something you are too deep in. Wonderful.
Yeah, like My Hero Academia, I'll say it now. It hooks you early by having a bunch of fun teens who learn how to use superpowers in interesting ways, and they have tournaments against each other. And then once you're hooked, the plot begins, and the plot is some shit I couldn't give a fuck about. I don't give a shit about any of this shit that's happening now, and I hate it because it's just like, this sucks. This is boring. This is why long-form storytelling sucks. They can't just spend 500 chapters having the teens be fun and have tournaments. They have to have some world-shaking events occur, and it's like, ugh, who cares? And, you know, you hate to see that happen in your long stories. One Piece is like One Piece is the example you point to as the reason that you would try anyway. Like, I know that long form stories are prone to failing and getting shitty, but you could end up like One Piece. Like, for example, Joe, one thing that I've noticed I've seen this said elsewhere, and I believe it myself. I'm now brave enough to say it out loud because I've seen other people saying it. Hopefully, my saying it will inspire others. One Piece, 1,007 chapters, definitely going to get at least 5 more years worth. Not long enough.
And you're not saying that as a goofer. Yeah, like I think one of the funniest things you have said, as it is, you didn't even know you were telling a joke. Is like I was like, how much time does like One Piece have left? And you were like, I don't know. At this pace, if he tries really hard, I guess he could maybe start to wrap things up, maybe in 5 years. and like you weren't goofing, like you were just given a lay of the land, and it was so funny.
Like. Because there are so many contradictory statements that One Piece fans say. Like, I can say, sincerely, One Piece is very near the end. We are in the end game. The final confrontation is set. Things are going to come to a very real head soon. At the same time, that was going to take about 5 years and 250 chapters, for sure. Because what's happening now in the manga is there's a big fight. There's actually like 10 fights happening at the same time. All right, we got that. Obviously, our heroes are going to win. I know that's going to happen because I was told that by Oda 10 years ago.
He never breaks a promise.
Exactly. So our heroes are going to win. But here's the thing. The heroes winning on this particular island are going to have such massive political ramifications for the entire world. And Oda, having never broken a promise, is going to have to depict all of those ramifications on the page. And that's, like, straight up, that's going to take 10 chapters. Like, there's no other way around it. The world is so big and everything is so linked. Like, it's just going to take that long. It's not filler. It's not him stretching it out. That is simply the facts. And that's where I get this, like, it's both coming to a close, and it also has a million more chapters left. And also another part about it being not long enough, now that we're in the part where like everything is super high stakes and we're like fighting the strongest guys in the world trying to remake society in a real and radical way by taking them down, we don't get to see the crew like drink and have a party on the boat anymore. And I feel like they should just take a break and have 20 chapters of party on the boat. I think that would be really nice. They deserve it.
Yeah, the start of One Piece is very fun because the goal is I want a chef. I want a musician. I want to have a good time on the boat. And yeah, that drives the initial like plot, and it's fun. But I imagine now when you start talking about like the world government and other things they don't understand, and Baroque works, which is actually like 40 years earlier anyway. Like I'm just saying, like there's so much stuff.
Yeah, like they're on Japan World now. They're on an island called Wano that's Japan themed, and like every single thing they've done since they've gotten there has been like so fucking high stakes, tense. We have to get this right, or the world like is going to be plunged into fucking shackles forever as Kaido takes over and becomes the cruel tyrant of the world. They never get a chance to eat big meat. And, like, I get it, but, like, yeah.
There's a crucial part about the start of any One Piece island before the stakes get that high that I've observed, which is there's got to be a period where Luffy can, like, walk into some stuff and knock things over. Yeah. And, like, he has to be told to do one thing and then forget.
Oh, man. Yes. I love when he gets specifically told. This is another example of Oda never breaking a promise and telling you what's going to happen. Luffy always is like, hey, Luffy, if the one thing that you shouldn't do, like, I got to be clear, do whatever you want, but the one thing you cannot fucking do is X. And he's like, got it. And then, like, 3 chapters later, someone's like, hey, do you like to do X? And he's like, would I? And does X as loud as anyone ever has.
So we've been talking about this really intricate world government plot, all these moving pieces, these cool fights, these power creeps, there's this storytelling thing, and And all of this is correct, but it also fails to capture a key element here, which is that there's a lot of good goofs.
Yeah, it's
fucking funny.
It's silly. It's the silly show. Luffy, who is our badass action hero, is like a Bugs Bunny man who has never learned to read. He's so stupid and is constantly falling on his ass.
Yeah, he aside from the drive to acquire the One Piece, he really just wants to eat a piece of meat that has a bone through it.
Yeah. He wants to drink grog out of a cup that's shaped like a small barrel with a handle and hoot with his buddies. Like one of the crewmates he gets, Frankie, who's the shipwright and who is a cyborg man who is like a robo. He like builds robot parts into his body. Like when Luffy gets him, part of it is like, this is a nice guy, he's strong, and he knows how to repair the boat. But another main part is like, when Frankie shows me robot shit, I go, he just likes robots. He's a dumbass. I love him.
Yeah, well, like, you have a guy whose, like, arm can go away, right? And, like, become stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
What are some other good goofs? I mean, like,
my favorite, I'll start. I fucking love that there is a knockoff version of the Straw Hats, and the visual gag of all of them being off is so good.
Yeah, there's a time skip in One Piece, and during the time that the Straw Hats are not doing pirate stuff, some guys dress up as them and make money off their fame, and they're all just like bizarro world versions. And like Chopper, who's like a little reindeer cutie, is just a normal fox that they taped horns and a hat onto.
Yeah. Like one of Nami's first like big one-on-one fights is right after she gets this weather rod that Usopp makes, and she doesn't know how to use it, so that the fight is her just like reading the manual as this woman who can shoot spikes everywhere is just trying to kill her. It's good. Like it's just, and of course the joke is just like the manual is written in such a way that's like, anyway, as you know, I put all of the important party tricks at the start. The fighting stuff, here it is.
Yeah, so like, Usopp, fucking funny you should mention him having built the climate rod, because he's funny as hell. This is a goofy man who doesn't have any powers. He's constantly afraid and is nervous all the time, and he doesn't want to get in a fight, and he just wants to party with Luffy. He in many ways is me in the series. So there's one part where they go to Halloween Town, and there's someone who has ghost powers, and when one of their ghosts passes through you, you become despondent and hopeless. So like Zoro is like, I'm ready to kick ass because I'm strong and I'm going to be the strongest swordsman. I'm going to rip shit and kill every villain. And then a ghost goes through him and he's like, no, what's the point? I'll never get stronger. Oh, there's always going to be more bad guys. I give up. I'm not fighting. And Sanji is like, idiot Mosshead. I, Sanji, am going to save the... No, ghost went through me. This can't possibly... I might as well give up. We lose. I surrender. I'm hopeless. And it's like, the Straw Hats are about to all die and be destroyed by the ghost power. And the only one left is Usopp. And the ghost goes through Usopp, and he doesn't change at all. And the ghost girl is like, how are you still standing? And he says... Lady, I'm always depressed. That's normal to me. And hits her with a big hammer.
So like that fight was an aristocrat's joke. That's what it was.
Yep, pretty much.
I haven't even seen this. You just told me about this, but in the time skip, Usopp like doesn't do time management very well. So like by the time he's supposed to meet up with everybody, he has been slacking, and he's just like flabby and out of shape and not strong, and he does so he's like, oh crap, I gotta cram. And he just basically does all the power up at the very end, like crammed in. He goes to cram school.
Yep, pretty much. And the time skip, I won't explain the details, but all of those Straw Hats get teleported to specific islands that are like specially selected to help them hone their skills. And Usopp is sent to this like island where there's a bunch of crazy plants so that he can like pick up their seeds and use them as slingshot bullets. And so like when the seed hits, it like turns into whatever weird plant that does a crazy like utility ability. And he's supposed to be learning that. And the way the island is set up is there's a lush, safe inner zone, and the further you get to the coast, it gets more and more dangerous. And so he's supposed to be like going out and like leveling up and then going back to the safe zone. He just sat in the safe zone the whole time. He just ate a bunch of big fruit, and then he's like, oh shit, was I supposed to be training? Oh fuck, I'm not even supposed to be here.
This is again how the comic looks is so great because the thing you showed me is him like realizing he has to do it. It's like, Luffy needs my awesome power, and he's drawn so good. Like, it's so fucking funny. His face is just distorted as he's like running. It's so funny.
He's like a perfectly little round ball, man. So yeah, we should talk about the art, because the art is, and I think this is wild in that like One Piece is the best-selling manga ever, the third best-selling comic book ever, and it has a very unique visual style, and nothing looks like it. Like, how can something be this fucking huge and not visually influence everything? Like, everyone looks like a fucking Looney Tune Disney goofer. Nobody looks like an anime person. Like, there's definitely a house style to manga and anime, and One Piece looks like so not like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's strange that not that it's an outlier. It's that this outlier is the largest property.
Yeah. Fuck. It's like if everyone knew like what water looked like, but the oceans, like the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, were like red. But you like when people talk about water, it's like, well, water's definitely not red. Like, I know there's a lot of red water out there, and it's like sort of the biggest one, but like, no, water's blue. Like, if I'm gonna draw water, I'm taking out my blue crayon. Don't worry about that red crayon. And like, because it's goofy, you get shit like all the characters who are like strong and badass and like very serious. When something happens that surprises them, their eyes pop out like 2 feet. And their tongue shoots out and is a zigzag. And that's just normal, because everyone does that.
You should never get sick of that. If you ever find yourself like upset that a wolf turned into a factory whistle, like, you need to reassess your priorities, because you need as much eyes popping out in front of you as you can get, like tongues shooting out, steam coming out of ears. You need that.
Yeah, and this is a world where everything is taken very seriously. There's very real ramifications to everything that happens, and the things that are happening are going to radically reshape society for everybody. And the people who are the main players in this have their eyes pop out when they see something goofy. Like, they're one of my favorite drawings that's ever been drawn is a character has their eyes pop out because they saw something crazy, and then the next panel, they shift focus to a different character. The character whose eyes pop out is in the background. And instead of the eyes being rigid straight out, they have flopped down and fallen on the ground. They're sort of like big noodles. And the character is picking them up and putting them back in.
That is the like comic equivalent of chewing the scenery.
Yup. And that's just pure fucking Oda stunting on everyone. It's like, I'm gonna draw a fucking bug bunny in my action comic that everyone loves the most, and you're just gonna sit there and be like, you know, buddy, you're right. Like, okay, the fucking One Piece, whenever the people get beat up, they're missing teeth. So like Luffy, whenever he's like fighting a big villain, like he's missing a bunch of teeth, but like later he smiles and his teeth are all there. And like midway through the series, someone asks him to his face, like, buddy, like, how do your teeth do that? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And he takes a big swig of milk, and a tooth just pops into the missing spot. And they're like, how did that fucking happen? And he's just like, I don't know, don't worry about it.
I'm a shark. What do you want?
It's good. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. 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 We've talked a lot about One Piece's structure, why that's so good, its humor and silliness, and why that makes it so incredible, so unique. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which also makes the serious parts hit harder. But we haven't mentioned a lot about the actual crew, the Straw Hat crew, the main characters. And fucking we should, because part of the reason why this series is so goddamn good is because it's about homies.
It's just about checking in with your boat friends.
Yeah. It's about a bunch of, I mean, like, anime has been about found family since the fucking beginning. But, like, One Piece really just, like, loves to show you a boat friend and be like, so, this boat friend is the most wonderful, gentlest, kindest, most beautiful angel. And then people were mean to them. They told them they didn't belong. They said, you'll never be happy. And then, one day, Luffy came along and said, get on the boat. And once they got on the boat, they became whole. And I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps happening. It's not like that's the beauty of it. You've experienced the addition of a crew member how many times now? So it's like this knowable thing that can happen, but it doesn't happen enough.
I mean, it's happened. I think there's now 10 crew members officially, and just every single one of them. Like, when people rank the Straw Hats, like, that's a big, like, clickbait content video for, like, One Piece YouTubers, is like, I rank the Straw Hats. To me, that is anti-spiral behavior, and I will not allow it. That is actually, it is an evil thing to do, because they're all beautiful homies who had nowhere to go, but have found a beautiful, loving family in the Straw Hat crew, and they love each other and respect each other. And to put Nami on C tier is like, it'd be like someone like putting like one of my brothers on C tier. I'm like, hey buddy, fuck off. Like, you don't get to say that.
Winnie hasn't watched any One Piece, but she has watched like YouTube videos where they come up, and her opinion is that Chopper is good.
Yo, Chopper's good as fuck. Yeah. Oh my god. So Chopper's this little reindeer. He ate the human fruit and gained human
that
intelligence.
Also, like, okay, yeah, the really the human fruit is just like an accepted like baseline for the character. Is a wonderful little thing. I like it. It's a stupid fuck. Like, look, by the time you meet Chopper in the Iceland, you've seen enough varieties of the fruit. You're comfortable with it enough that when he walks out the human fruit, you're just like, all right, okay, you earned it.
Yeah. And he ate it, Joe, and he became a reindeer with human intelligence. And all the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names.
They said, fuck off. You can game now. We don't respect you.
And he's like, I will simply live with the humans. And they're like, who is this fucked animal? This animal is shitty and fucked. And he met a guy who was like, I will be your friend, Chopper. Don't worry. I will respect you. I'm a doctor and I'll teach you medicine. But this guy was kind of like a quack doctor. He was kind of fucked. And he was like, I'm going to find a way to make sakura blossoms grow on this snowy island. And everyone's like, you're a dumbass. And Chopper learns medicine. And one day his mentor is hurt and he makes him a medicine. And the mentor sees that Chopper accidentally put a dangerous mushroom in it, but he's like, no, I'll take it anyway because I care about Chopper and I'm so proud that he would do this on his own. And his mentor dies, and Chopper feels like he's a failure and that there's nowhere for him. And he's very cute. I gotta be clear, he's a little angel.
His hat. He's got a little hat.
He's got a little hat, and then Luffy shows up, and he says, "Join my crew, Chopper." And I won't get into specifics, but something happens that does sort of make Sakura blossoms bloom on the ice island. It's sort of like a metaphor. They don't actually. But as he's leaving, he sees it, and Chopper cries. Folks, this is a story about homies, and all the fucking Straw Hats love them. They all love them. They're all so different. Zoro's a badass. He's stoic, and he likes to drink and go to bed and be in a cast and fight with swords.
He loves having every limb broken at once.
But when he sees Chopper, who's a little teddy bear man who likes to talk about cotton candy, he's like, I love him. He's my friend I respect. I'd do anything for Chopper. And it's like, ugh.
There's also a very fun dynamic inherent to the Straw Pirates that even where I'm at is clear, which is Luffy can fight, Zoro can fight, the kicking chef, buddy, he fights. But then you have Nami and Usopp, and like they are like not the direct combat people, and that's why like whenever they get involved, it's very fun because they just have different strengths, and it really plays to the idea of like an ensemble very well.
It really fucking does. It's so good, and that's like part of why I wish it was longer. Like, because what's happening now,
like a patently insane statement.
I mean, yeah, but listen to what I'm about to drop on you. Currently, there's a big fight happening in the manga, happening right now, where there's like 5 or 6 different discrete fights happening on the same, like in the same building, but like separate from each other. And each of them have different members of the Straw Hats fighting different people. And in a perfect world, we would just see all of them. We would see the entire fight for everyone. But what's actually happening, because, you know, Oda is trying to keep the pace snappy, is like we'll cut to Nami and Usopp's fight against Page 1 and Ulti, and we'll get like 3 or 4 panels, and we'll cut to something else, and we're not going to hear from them for 3 chapters. Like, they're just not going to show up. And it's because, you know, you got to keep the plot moving. You can't just show 30 pages of a fight that doesn't actually move the plot forward any further than like, and then the fight was over. But man, I want it because I love them all. I love them all so much.
It seems like there is a sort of writing challenge. You have some inertia to overcome because now that there's so many crew members, every single activity now has to account for at least 10 bodies. Or like you got to do the lazy thing where they're like, oh yeah, and then half of them got sleepy. They ate too much pudding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was recently for like fucking 2 full years of like calendar year, real-time years, like the Straw Hats were split up because like one group, like Group A did this one thing and Group B went to this other place. And it was only pretty recently that it was the first time all 10 of them were in the same spot. And when they were, there was this big fucking double-page splash panel of all of them doing an action pose. And it was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And like, even now, like, when all we get of like the crew interacting is like brief flashes because like we got to keep the fucking plot snappy because everything's going down now, there are still opportunities for like pairings that don't get a lot of screen time. Like, put a new permutation of like these 2 Straw Hats and they react to something in their specific way, and you're like, I've never seen that specific dynamic yet. That's delightful. Like Jinbei and Robin had some great moments recently. They never interacted before really very much, but now I know exactly what I know that when they have their homie party and when they drink out of big barrels that are for cups, I know what they're going to be like together. And it's fun. And you know what? I'll give you the gist. They're going to be good butts. They're going to respect each other and have a great time. That's how it always is. Except for Sanji and Zoro. But that's only because they're in love with each other and they don't want to say it.
They're married. They don't know it yet.
Yeah. I don't want to say married, but I mean, like, they definitely love each other. I don't know about in love. But, like, they're blood homies at the very least. God, I love all these fucking guys. I want to talk about one thing though. Sometimes the Straw Hat crew members do fight. They do fall out. And when it happens, one, it's the most devastating shit you've ever seen in the world, and it makes you cry. It makes me cry.
This is why, like, a JRPG making you fight party members should be against the Geneva Convention. It's the same concept.
Yes. And like a JRPG, you spent like 50 hours with that party member, where every single second for those 50 hours, the game is just being like, that's your homie, that's your homie, that's your homie, that's your buddy, that's your homie, that's your buddy. And then they have a health bar over their head, and you're like, but that's my buddy.
Health bars are for enemies.
Yeah. Holy shit.
It also really hurts when you like just bought something for them and equipped it to them, and then they leave. And then that sucks.
And then when they come back, that item that you gave them and they immediately left with is like under-leveled. Fuck that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, I want to talk briefly. This is another specific story beat I want to hit. In Water 7, which is the island where shipbuilders live, they take their ship to get it fixed. Because it's been through a lot of shit, and we've seen it all. We know it's been a lot, and they want to get it fixed. And up until now, they haven't had a dedicated shipwright. And Usopp, who's sort of like the guy who isn't good at anything, has been fixing the ship just because like no one else is going to do it. So he's been putting a lot of his blood and sweat into this, making sure that the boat stays together. He really cares about the boat. There was a spirit that they saw on the boat that was unexplained, and later they find out that what that is a manifestation of the love that the people have for that boat, and it's a very rare thing that a boat is loved enough for that spirit to manifest.
So you can like a boat so much, a ghost happens?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, makes sense. So they go to this place, and they go to the shipwrights, and they're like, please fix our boat. And they're like, the keel is fucked, and it's unfixable, and it needs to be destroyed and replaced with a new boat. And Usopp is like, well, the boat is connected to me. It was my childhood friend who gave us this boat. It's been me who's been putting this boat back together, and I didn't do a good enough job. And everyone here has superpowers, and I don't. And everyone here is okay with scuttling the boat, who's been with us the entire time. They're going to be okay with scuttling me when I'm holding them back. And because of this, he's like, no, Luffy, you can't, like, I won't let you destroy the Mary. Like, you can't do it. And he's like, we have to do it. It's not a decision. We need a seaworthy boat, and this won't do it. And he's like, no, you can't. Like, you can't just give up. You're just going to give up because someone told you had to. And he fucking gets in a fight with Luffy. And he uses all of his Usopp tricks, all of his special strategies that trick Luffy. But, like, it's all to nothing, because Luffy's, like, 10 times stronger than him. All the tricks work, and then he just shakes off the trick and punches Usopp in the face so hard, and everyone on the fucking boat is crying. And Usopp leaves, and he's like, I guess this is what I always feared. It happened, it was going to happen, and now it has. I'm obsolete. I'm not good enough to be one of them. I'm not. And I'm not even getting into how he gets back on the boat, but he does. He eventually realizes he can do what little he can, and he is irreplaceable, and they do care about him. They love him. They love him so much, and they want him back on the boat, and he gets back on the boat, and it makes me cry. And sometimes people are like, Usopp is such an asshole in Water 7. He's so whiny. He's being irrational. I'm like, yeah, I'd be irrational too if I was a fucking normal guy, and all my friends were superheroes who were going to fight fucking Iron Man, and I'm like, well, I would definitely die if I did that. Can you protect me? And they're like, oh, sure, but we won't protect our boat. And it's like, the boat is like me. You see where I'm going with this. Fuck. I'm getting emotional. This fucking boat shit, with this whole arc with the boat got me crying so goddamn much. I talk about when I was like crying at work thinking about a moment from One Piece, and it had to do with this boat. It was in this arc. Oh, God. Fuck. Good comic. Good comic.
That's why you can't read manga at work. One, because of the virus, but also if someone's like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" and you're just like, "Yes." The stretchy boy has a new vehicle now, and it's just, I just need to be alone right now.
It's just a lot, dude. Okay, so the One Piece is about homies. It's about homies. It's about the love and respect of homies. People who have nowhere to be in the world, who were told by the world over and over that you're worthless, finally realizing that they're not. Beautiful. Love it. Other reason One Piece is great is because it's about overthrowing capitalism. The villain is neoliberalism and boomers.
Yeah.
Because, like, what is a pirate in this world? Well, in a normal world, pirate is a boat guy who steals things from other boats.
And now it's anarchists.
Yeah. Luffy never steals shit. What he does is, like, a pirate is a guy who kind of just goes around. I would love to go around. And the government is like, you can't go around.
It reminds me of my favorite Vine, which is Zach, stop kicking. It's a bunch of friends telling a guy named Zach to stop kicking. He's like kicking like the laziest way possible, like a robot walking forward. And they're like, Zach, you gotta stop, Zach. And then it quickly cuts to the same place like later at night, and Zach is surrounded by cops.
It's that, dude. It is. And really the main bad guy. There's like evil pirates, obviously. They're like the arch villains, but like the overarching villain is neoliberalism. It's the government. The world government that controls everything is like nominally like we care about law and order and justice. We help everybody. We provide for everybody. We make sure that pirates don't come and kill you. We defend you against the pirates. But what the world government really does is has a stranglehold on the media and manufactures consent around the whole world. It ruthlessly extracts capital from countries that have it to the detriment and death of its inhabitants. It prioritizes the wealth and status of a privileged elite called the Celestial Dragons, who are all like weird, gross idiots who wear spacesuits because they don't want to be on the same planet as the commoners. And they are required. The world government is required to give them whatever they want, which includes massive amounts of money that they do collect from everyone else. Transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top, and also they keep their power through overwhelming military force, which they do not hesitate to unleash with horrific effect to those who are going against their ideology and their agenda, even as they are purporting to be the good guys. Do you recognize this from the world?
Yeah, I think in our world, we only care about boats when they clog up the canal. When you can't get graphics cards anymore because there's a boat stuck, that's One Piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. And there's one part where Luffy is told over and over, like, hey, the Celestial Dragons, the world elites, if you do anything to them...
Luffy, you absolutely cannot punch them. How many pages do we need to explain that he cannot, under any circumstances, punch one of these guys?
If you punch one of these guys, I cannot emphasize enough how much shit will fall directly on your head. We will instantly have 10 of the strongest guys in the world trying to kill us in retribution. You have to, like, you got to be clear. I got to be clear with you. These guys can do anything. They're allowed to murder people. We just got to let them do it. They're Epsteins. They just can do it. And you definitely can't punch them. Luffy, what's the one thing you can't do? And he said, punch them. It's like, that's right. Don't punch them. Do not punch them. And then one of them is mean to Luffy's friend.
And then things go a little unplanned.
Because when you know it, he punches him. And it's one of the best panels of any comic ever. Just a double-page splash of some Epstein who's gotten everything that he's ever wanted in life, who every lever of power is designed to not only keep him rich and in power, but enrich and further empower him. He's punched in the face by a rubber boy who loves meat.
Yeah, who we've collectively spent 1,000 hours with. Like, I don't know. How much time do you spend at your job? Like, what's the total runtime of One Piece? It's an investment.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good. Luffy is. We've said this before. I don't know if it's been on an episode or if it was off camera. Off camera, where I described Luffy as being like less of a person and more of just an item that the crew owns, like a big bomb that the crew always like carries with them.
Yes. Yes.
Like we can throw the bomb at the bad guy when the time comes, and that's pretty much how it is. Like a lot of these arcs are just like they encounter a bad asshole who's causing injustice.
And then Luffy has to rampage his way to the bad guy.
Yeah, like the problem isn't that like Luffy's gonna have a big fight with the bad guy. Like he's gonna punch the bad guy once and win. The problem is how are we gonna get him to the right spot because there's a lot of stuff in between.
Yeah, and he has to. The issue is he's never read a map before.
It's true, and Zoro gets lost. Zoro gets lost all the time. That's his big quirk. Fuck. Another reason that this fucking neoliberalism is the villain is that all of the warlords, almost without exception, I think there are a few exceptions, but most of the warlords of the sea, who are, to be clear, the pirates who are paid by the government to be sort of government-sanctioned agents and do the government's bidding, they're all super fucking corrupt and are like trying to take over countries and become even eviler, and the government fucking supports them because they don't give a shit. It's all evil, and I'm not going to spoil what the One Piece is because we don't really know. But take it from me, just trust me on this. There's ample evidence to indicate that what the One Piece is not actually treasure, but the means by which the power that runs the world can be wrenched from the hands of the few and be given to the many. It's an anarchist fucking show, except for when they beat up a mean king and let the good king take over. That's not very anarchist, but
you know what I think the One Piece is?
What?
I think it's the Golden Gun.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man, that one hit kills, dude. That would change the balance of power.
Holy shit, Joe. You know, I think you might be onto something. I'll give you some evidence to your theory. When Luffy first learned Gear Third, when he did it afterwards, he became a little tiny guy for a while. That's odd job.
But why was he small?
Because Gear 3 makes him huge, so he overextended and like he shrank afterwards. But he became a little tiny. He became Odd Job. So Odd Job with the Golden Gun. I tell you what, that's gonna change the world. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
That was a long fucking episode. I don't actually know if we fully described the appeal of One Piece. There's so much left unsaid still. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
There's a lot unsaid. I haven't read most of it or watched most of it. It's just sort of like this amazing thing hanging over my head that is both really like exciting to dive into, but intimidating as well.
Mm-hmm. I think something that speaks to that I think I do want to say before we leave. One Piece has this aura of being like intimidating and huge and impossible to parse and get into. It's just too big to dive into. And I get that. But I think it's important to remember that One Piece is just like a shonen action story. That's all it is it's a shonen comic book. And if you know that genre, it's just that. It does not reinvent shonen. It does not transcend shonen. It just is that completely. It's so normal. It does all the things that those stories do.
It's just the best one.
Yeah.
It's the best one.
The only thing that One Piece does exceptionally is be the best one. And that's just it. If you like shonen stories, it's the best one. That's all it is. Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, an Anime Sicko.
I'm Joe, an Anime Sicko.
Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.